Good morning, YouTube. Today we've got Evan from HBI, and he would like to tell his situation with EAG.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
If you're new to the channel, my name is Dan, and this channel is all about the supercar ownership experience. Evan from HBI reached out to me. I actually have met him before. I met him at EAG, interesting enough, when he was having his Scud get converted. He's got a situation, and I'll just let him explain it, and yeah, geez. Okay, so here we go. Okay, YouTube, here is Evan Wiles, and he is, I guess you're the owner of HBI, right?
Yep, me and Billy are the two owners, yep.
You, unfortunately, are in sort of a similar situation, although a bit different than mine, but I'll just let you kind of tell your story, and we'll go from there.
We're a shopping and dealership in North Carolina, and we service a lot of Ferrari customers, Porsche, all that kind of stuff. And back in like October of 2021, I had a client reach out saying that he wanted to do a conversion on his 430. And I said, cool, you know, I've seen it online. I'm down to give it a try. So that's kind of my introduction to ART and EAG as a whole. So I called them up and they're like, hey, you know, we're going to be down in that region. We'll fly out there and we'll help you install it. And it went really well. No issues. Everything worked well. So I was excited. The client was excited. And eventually he said, hey, man, you know, let's kind of link up and I'll sell you some kits at discount and you can be an installer. I'm good with that as long as the support's there and if I have any issues, you're there to help me. So we made a deal and I bought, 10 kits from them at a pretty steep discount. Started lining up customers to get these conversions done. Started getting the kits here and there, 1, 2, knock them out, and it starts to slow down. I had 2 or 3 cars torn apart in the shop at one time and waiting on parts. It got to the point where I would get the kits minus the cables. That's when Ferrari stopped making the cables. You couldn't buy them from Scuderia or anywhere like that. They were just non-existent. So he was trying to outsource the cables from Poland because there was because he wanted to be OEM manufacturer. He wanted to be the same. So, whatever, that's fine. And it got to the point where Poland shipped a batch. Finally, it came in. He said, "Oh, these aren't right. They're not working well." So send them back. Same thing happened again. He's like, "Well, I'm sure I'll make some in house." I said, "Cool. If you can do it in house, let's do it. Just so I can get these cars out of here and get the clients happy." He finally builds a couple in house and sends it to me to get those cars on the road. He came to me and was like, "Hey, man, I really want to work with you. Let's get this thing going. Let's go in together on kits. You can install them. All I want you to do is cover the cost of the kits that it cost me for the raw materials from China." Is where they build them at. I said, all right, well, I'll have my lawyer draw up a contract and we'll see what we can make happen. We did a contract, which is I will wire him close to $100,000 to cover my 100 kits. And in turn, I will get 10 kits every 21 days until the 100 kits is reached, starting 21 days after contract. And that's kind of where the story begins. And that was in July of 2022. Even kind of before that, this is actually where I met Dan. Is I had a client reach out to me that had just bought a Scud and said, hey, I want to convert this Scud. Can you do it? I'm like, well, I know Art's done one. So let me call him and see what he says. I call him, and this is in January 2022. So I called Art and I said, hey, man, I got a client with a Scud. I know you're backed up. I said, I'm more than happy to do it myself. He's like, well, I can do it. No problem. But I have to do it in-house. I said, okay, how about I fly out there, me and one of my media people fly out there, we'll knock it out, be good. He said, yeah, it should be fine, no big deal. Cool. So I shipped the car down there. I think the car got to him in February 25th of 2022. And then me and my media person flew down there on March 3rd of 2022. We got down there and got straight to work. And when we got the conversion done, and we were driving the car by March the 5th. It was drivable. There was, of course, the center console wasn't done. And the programming wasn't done, but the car would run and drive. I said, hey, man, what do we need to do from here? He said, well, give me a week. I'll get the center console made. I'll get the programming done with Trev, and I'll have it back to you in a week or two. Cool, no problem. I tell the customer that. I fly back to NC. My texts don't go back that far, but my first text that does go back that far is from September of 2022, which is 6 months later.
Yeah.
During that span, the whole problem was that the programming was they couldn't get the programming to work. Now, Art's Scud they did the first time, I don't think ever really worked with the programming. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if that car was ever figured out.
I think they eventually got it, but it took multiple tries.
My customer was not happy, and I'm just kind of be between the two, and it's a huge mess. I get the car in November, finally complete, quote unquote. So I get the car, I drive it, everything's running great, car's driving good, but the center console is still not there.
Yeah.
They had a little plastic spacer in there that 3D printed. It was really rough. Customer wasn't happy with that. I wasn't happy with that. Customer said, "Hey, I'm not paying you until it's complete," which I'm not going to argue with it. And so I tell Art this, and he tells me over and over and over again. And I have all this screenshot that center console, I'll get it to you. It's going to be out of carbon. It's going to go between the bezel and the center console. It's going to be good to go. And he's like, just wrap that one in suede for right now. I'm like, well, I don't really want to do that. I want the car to be complete. Well, come December, the guy's like, hey, man, just sell the car. I'm like, well, that's fine. I can do that for you. And we agreed to put it on Bring a Trailer. Told Art, said, hey, man, the car's going on Bring a Trailer. I need to get pictures of the car. I need that center console piece so the car's complete. So, all right. So I waited another week. Finally, I said, screw it, I'm going to post it. So it goes on Bring a Trailer. Of course, people mentioned the center console. The car actually does pretty well. I think we sold it for $275. So it wasn't bad for then. And so I sold the car. The gentleman who bought it apparently knows Art somehow, one way or another. Art talks to him, and the guy tells me, hey, I want the centerpiece or whatever before you ship the car. That's okay. And I tell Art, and Art's like, oh, no, I talked to him. He's good. He's actually going to make one of his own. That's kind of what he does. So I ended up shipping the guy the car. When he gets the car, the shifter doesn't feel right to him. And I explained to him, hey, it drove great whenever it was here. If there's a problem with the shifter, we can send it to EAG, have them take a look at it. One thing in that auction, you go back and look, that Art said, hey, I'll do a 3-year warranty on everything.
Yeah.
I think the regular's 2 years. So now I send it back to Art. And the car was in California. Well, Art gets the car there. I think he had that car for like 5 more months before it finally got fixed, which he claimed that the transporter that transported the car damaged something in the shift box. I don't know. So that was one long drawn out debacle with him. But when it came to the 100 kits, I still hadn't got all my kits for my original 10. I was still missing like 3 or 4. Even to this day, I'm down. He still owes me one more kit to this day from that original 10.
So you got 9 eventually.
I got 9 eventually, yeah.
But you were supposed to get 100 of total, right?
110 total. 10 from the first total, 100 from the second deal.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, there was a kind of a constant communication or lack of communication, but me bugging him about, hey, what's the deal with kits? What's the manufacturer saying? Because he wanted to do a test run, which I was cool with, of having them assemble the kit in China, the manufacturer, and then sending the kits assembled to him. That way, it saved him a lot of manpower and time.
Right.
But he said he got the kit and it wasn't worth the crap, so he wanted to do everything in house. I said it's fine. I said, I will, if you want to ship me the raw materials, my 100 to me, we hop on a Zoom call, I'll record it, you train me how to build the kits, I can do it, I can take that load off of you and do it at my shop, I'll build a whole build out for it, no problem. Yeah. He said, well, I can't really do that because every kit that comes in, I have to do CNC work to it to make it fit right. With all the 3D printers and CADs and all this other stuff he has, I don't know how that's possible. He sends me tracking at some point, from China. It gets to a point where if that tracking, I realize that, hey, all the boxes have touched down. And so I said, hey man, I know the parts are there. What's the deal? He's like, oh, I'm getting a team together assembled. And during all this whole long span, he's sending me all these shop layouts and visions for the future and all this stuff. And it was just, that's cool.
Super grandiose.
Yeah. And that's cool. And, there was a time where, me and my partner Billy have been able to grow a successful business from absolutely nothing. And I said, hey man, I am okay with hopping in with you. I don't even care about equity or anything. I'll be an installer and I can help you grow this thing. The shop across the parking lot from him came up for rent at one point, and I was like, hey man, if you want, I'll get that spot and I can turn it into an install facility. And you can take your facility across the street and make that the R&D and, just the parts manufacturing aspect of it. Because really that's what he seemed to care about more than anything was just, the R&D side of things. And honestly, that's probably what he was best at. He had knowledge on installations and troubleshooting. But as far as, the customer service aspect and the workflow aspect and the organization of the shop aspect, to get the production rolling was not there. Multiple times he kept on saying, "You'll be my installer. You'll be my installer." And this was that time. I think he was like 70 cars deep in that shop. It was a lot. And I said, man, start trucking the cars down here to me, and I'll start pumping them out and converting them for you. That way you can get caught up. And just that never happened. And then I also had another client that had it was LP Mercy. I can't remember which one it was, but he's like, hey, I want to do a conversion on this. I said, well, I know Art's been working on one, so let me call Art. He said, yeah, we can do it. No problem. Well, that client comes back and said, hey, I have a friend up in New York. I won't mention any names personally, but I know who it is that owns the car that's at Art's facility right now. And I think it was a Burgundy Murcielago. He's actually in a lawsuit with Art because they've had the car for so long and no progress has been made. So, I'm not interested in doing this unless it's something that you can source OEM and do it in-house. And I'm like, look, those parts, they're non-existent. I mean, there's nothing I can do there. That was kind of a red flag. I was like, okay, well, I was like, well, I know, I consider Art a friend. I had a good friendship with him, and I worked with him a lot. I learned a lot from him, honestly. Finally, in October of this past year in 2023, I was like, all right, it's been a year and almost a year and a half, and I've got nothing still, and I'm still owed one kit from the past. So I started a group chat with me, my business partner, him, and my lawyer. This contract, we've been extremely patient. We need something. And he says, well, I read the contract, and our original contract said that whenever we install a kit, we will pay him $3,000 per install. So he comes back saying, well, I need $3,000 per kit up front. I said, I'm not doing that. That wasn't the deal. I've waited a year and a half. Not happening. I was like, you signed the contract, man. And he's like, well, it might have been an oversight on my part. I said, well, not my problem.
Right.
Once again, you signed the contract. I wasn't trying to screw you over. I've been waiting a year and a half, and we're still nowhere. And another part of the contract was software. When we signed this contract, we said that part of the contract in the contract was that he will teach me how to program these cars. And I said, cool. So I invest in the tooling. For the last few installs, he's saying, hey, I need $1,500 to send to Trev for programming. I'm like, well, I thought the deal was that we didn't have to do that anymore. And that was the whole point of this, was that we could do all the software in-house and kind of skip that step, because in the past, Trev's a busy guy and he was extremely hard to get a hold of. It was always a hassle trying to get some type of timeline built. He was either on his boat in God knows where or something. So why am I having to pay you still? I said, well, sometimes I have to send the files out to Trev because I don't have them saved. And I'm like, okay, whatever. If that's what it is what it is. I'm learning now that more than likely that was just him getting money for himself, and he already had the files. At this point, we have three options: either send us kits that I know you have, that you send pictures of them to me. I didn't even ask for the full 100 kits right off the bat. I just said I need something. He came back with 3 kits, and I said that's not going to do it. I said, or I need my money back, or we can enter arbitration. Part of our contract has an arbitration clause in there, and that's that's how we do anything. In car sales, service, we always have arbitration clause. It just makes things easier. He said, well, I guess we'll have the lawyers figure it out. I said, all right, that's the way you want to go, that's fine. He said, send all communication to this so-and-so lawyer. I'm not really even a lawyer, but he has an office in the New World Trade Center, so I guess it was somebody he knows. The lawyer has basically been nothing there. So we've been kind of sitting in limbo since October of last year, and I haven't spoken to him since then. And then I kind of saw all the stuff go down. I reached out to you and said, hey man, $100,000 wrapped up with him, and see nothing of it. And we both agreed it sucks because I had a passion for this as much as Art did, and it's something I cared about. I thought this is really cool. It's a really cool product, and I wanted to help. And it's a bummer how it just kind of got put in the wrong hands. And like you said, there was never a problem with the product. The product was always great. I never had any issues with the shifter box, cables, or anything really. It's kind of crazy. And I've seen this stuff on Ferrari Chat multiple times in the past about Art, and I defended him for a while, and it got to the point now where this is the first time I've ever spoken publicly about this at all. Nothing I'm going to bring to light until now, after I saw the investors go in there and do what they did. And so now it's kind of like, well, if I can help somebody else, if somehow he comes through this, which I don't see how it's going to be possible, but I just want to make nobody else gets taken for a ride, because like you said as well, there's nothing to take. So which way I'm going legally, I don't know. I'll leave that to my lawyer. I'm not going to waste my time or money trying to squeeze something that's not there.
You and I are in the same boat in that, where we'd just be spending a bunch of money on lawyers to end up with nothing.
Yeah.
I almost feel worse for you than me because you actually put money in. I mean,
Yeah.
I invested my own money very, very early on, and I actually did get that money back when Art bought Gated 6 from me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was in 21, November 1st of 2021. And
Okay.
the only reason I got paid back was because he brought in that first investor. And so
Yeah.
I was able to get paid back from their money.
Okay.
But then of course I never got the royalty, and he didn't pay back one of the investors who had invested in Gated 6, which was a part of that acquisition contract. And it took me over a year to finally get that money. And in fact, I didn't get that money until after he got the new investor.
Yeah. It almost seems like that's what happened again, because the investors before the Johns are the ones that gave him the lease or whatever
Yeah.
on the equipment.
Yep.
And whenever he got the new investors, they paid off that debt to the other people.
At first it was good.
Yeah.
Because people have been like, like it was so obvious or whatever. It's like it's really easy to look back at it and say, yeah, of course it's obvious now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like the product worked.
Yeah.
I would physically go there regularly and see a giant pile of kits being assembled and stuff happening. Business side of it that just always never added up. If he's running the business poorly, it's what can you do?
And also, I mean, and I, like you said, people, it was obvious, but at that time, there was no other options there as far as conversions. If you found the Ferrari parts, which would take you a long time to piece one together, it was extremely expensive. And I like the innovation, and I think when I had the Scud down there, I think that's when they were switching over your car to cables.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yep.
So it always seemed like he was coming up with better solutions to fixes, and the 458 thing, I saw people commenting on that the other day, and which
was not
I know
real.
for a fact it wasn't real, and I know his plan was to take that car to SEMA,
Yeah.
but instead of an actual shift linkage and everything being on the car, it was going to be like a
Digital.
what?
It's a digital shift.
Correct.
Yeah, no. When that car came out, he somehow got an article. There was an article published about it, and I called him out and I said, Art, you're flat out lying in this article you just got published in. You need to correct them. Oh no, that's a mistake. I didn't tell him that. And I'm like, dude, the article says that you converted this car, and it's not converted. It's a digital shifter. And I was pissed about that, and I called him out on it, and he just, oh no, I didn't tell him that. They misquoted me and blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, this is how you burn bridges.
And that car is always a fake, and I think that's kind of why he never really spoke about it, because I know you probably needed somebody to call him out.
Well, he wanted me to show it, but then he started presenting it as it was like a real conversion. I'm like, no, man, I'm not gonna go on my videos and say this is a real conversion.
And then the California thing as well, and
Oh boy.
I said, man, I'll help you do this, because I thought it was extremely cool, because the chances of getting that gearbox are impossible.
Yeah.
And then how he got it, I don't know. I guess the gearbox is still there. I don't know.
As far as I understand, that car and that gearbox might still be at the shop. Pretty much all the cars, I believe, are gone. From what I understand, there might be one or two that are still there, and those were like cars that were torn apart. But I think all of the normal conversions, like the 575s, 599s, 430s, 360s, I think they're all taken care of. Weird one-off projects, and that was the other problem. Is like he would always get distracted with some shiny object.
Yeah.
And it was just
or people, not even that, because when I'm sitting there waiting on kits and I see them doing conversions for DDE and Hoovy and stuff like that, I'm like, hey, bro, I'm still waiting over here, and you're so busy. Why are you doing this? And that rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm sure it rubbed a lot of clients the wrong way too. Their cars have been there for a year.
Yeah, the Hoovy thing technically was my kit, so that one Hoovy didn't cut. Hoovy didn't cut in line. I will stick to that. Like that was.
Yeah.
I gave Hoovy my kit, or Hoovy paid me basically at cost or whatever for the kit.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it sounds like the DDE stuff were give me's.
Yeah.
When that happened, I was like, dude, you just pissed off like 50 people.
Yeah.
Waiting in line.
Yeah, and there was a lot of V12 cars there for a long, long time.
I was helping Chris when Josh and I were consulting, we helped create a list of everyone and prioritized it based on when their car got there and all that stuff. It was daunting when we saw this list. I mean, it was like, holy crap. When Josh and I started consulting for them to do their sales and service and stuff, dude, our phones blew up. It was insane. The number of phone calls and emails and stuff, that it was just nonstop. Most of the people were super patient, and they said, I just want the car done, right? I've been waiting a year or 6 months or 8 months or 2 years or whatever. I just want it done.
What kind of blew my mind when I got down there was, I got there and I was like, Art, where's your lifts at?
Yeah.
And all he had was that 4-post that your car was on.
Yeah.
Everything else could be on jack stands. I'm like, dude, like,
Yeah.
how you don't go out and get it? You spend $3,000 to get a lift. Why are we working on jack stands? And it's just like mind-boggling.
So they don't have any lifts, but they spent more than 6 figures renovating the offices.
Yeah, and his dad did a lot of that.
Yeah, that's another, like, oh man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just mind blown by that. It's like, oh my god.
That was the moment I knew that I had to get out. Was when the first investor acquired Gated 6 and they formed the new company and they moved to Austin, and it was like, oh, this is finally, like, it's finally gonna be a real business. And here I am sitting there like, man, they're finally gonna have an investor who's gonna tell them what to do, and they're gonna get the company straightened out. A week after they move in, I come check out the shop, and the first thing they did is they ripped out the offices.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing? You had the perfect setup. It already had a Ferrari mural on the wall.
Yeah.
You didn't need to do a damn thing. Throw some paint up and call it good, you know? And, oh, no, I got this vision. We got to have these glass walls. And I was like, oh, man, how much is this costing? And I don't remember. It was like, you know, like I'm going to say $150,000. I don't know. Some astronomically large number. And I'm like, you're blowing that much of the investor's money just to have cool offices.
When nobody ever goes there.
Right. That moment, I was like, I got to get out. I'm like, this isn't going to work.
And it sat uncompleted forever, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those building stuff just scattered out. It was a
because they ran out of money. They kept blowing all the money, and it kept running out.
I don't know where all it went, because the damn sure didn't go into the shop.
Well, I mean, he's got a boat. He's got a plane. He had multiple 6-figure expensive cars.
Yeah. I kept on telling him, I was like, I don't see how production can be so slow. I was like, I already have, after the second or third kit, I'd already made a whole entire process on it.
Yeah. With
pictures, tools needed, bolt sizes. It was already planned out to where the next person I was going to teach to do it, all they had to do was go to our processes, and it would teach you step by step how to do this conversion, because it's the same thing every single time. It's just repetitive. The fact that they couldn't, turn out, at least 3 or 4 a week was just mind-boggling. And I guess that's just the person, steering the ship. It's chaos. Yeah. And instead of just there was no workflow, it was just a bunch of guys staying around.
That always drove me nuts, because he refused to teach anyone else how to adjust the cables. He always had to be the one to adjust the cables, as if it was like this magic touch or whatever. I mean, I've done a couple cars now, and when I do the cables, I'm like, the last one I just did took me less than an hour. I'm like, okay, that was easy.
Yeah. It was a gold mine that literally would need just a few minor tweaks. I don't know if it was just he liked being self-destructive or what. I never quite understood why he couldn't get the installs, on par with the R&D. And I don't know much about the V12 cars. From all I know is kind of what he told me about the linkages never shifting great from the factory, and I don't know how much of that's true, and that's why he went cables. I mean, I'm sure you can probably speak more on that.
In hindsight, I mean, there are definitely some flaws in the shift rod design, but I think they're not flaws that are insurmountable. I think it exceeded his talent, because he's not a trained engineer or any of that stuff. Like, funny enough, he had a real engineer at the end, and if he had that real engineer back when they first were doing the 599, I think they would have been able to figure it out and have it keep rods. And they would have never had to do the shift cables. But I think he got so frustrated that they just switched to cables. The other problem was they were pulling out the transmissions in a way that can possibly damage some of the bearings on the shaft, on the torque tube. So when I did mine, we pulled out the transmission with the torque tube and the clutch still attached, right? Which is how you're supposed to do it. And they were leaving the clutch on and detaching the torque tube. And when you do that, it can put the bearings out of round. So we tested a couple of these torque tubes, and they had a lot of play. And so that play could cause more vibration into the whole system. When he was trying to get the first shift rod cars, the first 599s, he kept trying to fix this one for this one guy, because the guy was like putting super pressure on him, right, and giving him a hard time. And I actually drove it and everything, and there was tons of vibration in it. It was horrible, and it chattered like crazy, whatever. And I kept saying, well, let's take it out on his car and test it on mine, because mine had the lowest amount of out of round of all the cars we checked. And like, so maybe it's a vibration issue. Maybe it's not the engineering issue, right? And he just wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. It finally was like, oh, we're going to do cables, And I was like, okay, I mean, it makes sense. Cables, there is no vibration, so great. Everything's like I don't, you don't know, because if you're not there, you can't verify.
Yeah.
I first bought the 599. He was like, oh, we'll be able to do this in like a month or two, blah, blah. Okay. That didn't happen. And then they did convert this 575 with the parts that we had manufactured for the 599. Yeah. And they banged it out. And I'm like, great. I'll buy a 575 and we'll do a video on it, right? And he's like, okay, yeah, we'll get it done in like a week. I buy the 575, and next thing you know, it takes a year for that car.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why is this car taking so long? Like, I don't get it. The parts are on the shelf. Every time he would get caught in a lie or something stupid, something amazing would happen.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, you renew your faith in that. Oh, this is actually going to work.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're exactly right.
And so you unfortunately, like, your brain's like, oh, that worked. I'm going to ignore these things that aren't working, right?
Yeah.
But then the excitement dies down. Day turns into a week, turns into a month, and then you go, damn it, I'm still in. I'm still in.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I was with the Scud. Once it was finally done, and I drove it, and I was like, holy shit. Like, it worked.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Pretty amazing. Just frustrating because, what it could be. And, that hype has died down a lot. I mean, we were selling converted cars for like $220.
Yeah, for a while they were nuts.
Yeah, and then I think the last one I sold was like $160 for a 430. Hype died down, and then you have Dr. S. He came out with his kit, and that's substantially, cheaper than other competitors now, to where, he's not the only game in town. And I think that took a toll on him. And I told him, and I actually, when I first saw Dr. S kits, I sent him a message, hey, this is going to be a problem. And he's like, no, I don't think he knew how to really adapt to that.
Early on, when we first started Gated 6, I said, it's only a matter of time until some competitor enters the market. We have to be able to be in a position where everyone thinks we're the best, and it's easy available. And at that point, all we have to do is cut our price to match their price, and we'll win.
Yeah.
And I told him that from like day one. This is going to happen. And when it happened, by that time, I'm long gone. They kept their prices, and it just cratered their business.
He had all these machines, and he wanted to do everything in house. I want to do everything in house. I want to do everything in house. I'm like, man, there's a point in time in your business where you got to have your own boundaries, and where it makes sense to outsource something or sublet something. You just do it. He was so fixated on building everything in the house.
And that 5-axis mill was the biggest waste of money ever.
Holy.
I remember bringing in Chris the first time, and Chris had been manufacturing gun stuff for long time, right? So he knows manufacturing really well. And he walks in, he's like, why on earth do they have a $500,000 5-axis mill? Because we showed him all the parts. He's like, there's not a single part here that can't be made on a 3-axis that's like $25,000. Go buy some used 3-axis mills, get 4 or 5 of them set up and running, get one good tech, one good machinist to run them, and you could be printing all those parts for pennies.
Yeah.
And he would not listen to Chris. I got, oh no, I know what I'm doing. And
I think you wanted to make it seem like it was more complicated than it actually was.
all that expensive stuff, and it just sat there.
Yeah, I only spent like a few days there, but they never got used when I was there.
No, they
That's for sure.
never once were they running, and the vast majority of the time I was there, the 5-axis wasn't even running, and I was just appalled. I mean, just like,
Yeah.
dude, if you have a $500,000 machine, it needs to be running 24/7.
I don't think he manufactured anything besides those cables.
No, they actually were making parts at the end, in-house.
Oh, they were?
Yeah,
Okay.
They finally started making parts towards the end. They weren't hiring experienced people to run the machines, and from what I heard, someone crashed the machine. Crashing a 5-axis mill is, probably $50,000 fix or something,
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
I'm not going to say lick wounds because you got to move forward with programming the way it is now, and it's fairly easy from what I understand. I haven't done it yet personally, but it seems pretty straightforward, and there's no more sending ECUs off, which was always kind of the thing that Art prided himself on was we're using all the factory stuff, and the eDiff works and the Manila switch works, but now it seems to be done pretty simple. So it's kind of like, well, there's no need for more innovation on the 430 side. It's just the 430 360 side is done. There's no innovation there, and
It's commoditized.
Yeah, and I know he wasted a shitload of time and money on the Super thing too.
Oh my
that was
God.
before.
Jeez.
Holy moly! I don't even know why he went down that route.
I was there for a lot of that, and I kept saying, you can't keep chasing these shiny objects. We need to do things that make money. And we have something that makes money, but you keep ignoring it to pursue these other things. It's that damn squirrel, like, squirrel. He just can't focus on the thing that actually pays the bills.
Empty promises to a lot of people, it seems like, and I think there's going to be a lot more people coming out. I'm sure there are many other hanging lawsuits, and people got screwed. Probably mostly people like me and you. I don't know how any customer stuff, because I think most of the customer work stuff was pretty good. As far as I know.
I mean, I think the customers' cars that got done, for the most part, those customers seemed to be happy. There were some hiccups here and there. Some of that might even just be the car was messed up versus they messed up. But I'm sure they did mess up sometimes too. Who knows, right? I mean, it's still a human process. There's no doubt they did hundreds of conversions, whatever that number is. The vast majority of those hundreds of conversions, people are happy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like we said multiple times, the product was good.
Yeah.
It's just the business was bad.
Yeah. I mean, I bought a 430 and converted it my personal use. It was great.
Yeah.
I
they're so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's a blast.
It just really sucks. It's a big black mark on the whole automotive industry. Really, it's always known as for shady people, and dealers are shady, and people like him make everybody else look bad. I don't want to be associated with that. And there's plenty of videos with me speaking well on behalf of EAG, and I've told a lot of people about it. It sucks because it's when you put your name behind something, it really sucks that it turned out this way, and kind of got some pie on my face. And
yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm definitely in the same boat. I pride myself on how honest and transparent we try and be, and I thought I was doing the right thing, and I thought I was promoting an amazing product, and in many ways we were, right? Like it was, but then there was this whole other side to it that it all fell apart. It's hard when you're in the moment.
There's rumblings of the partner starting a new business, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I won't be a part of it. We'll say that much.
Yeah. That ship sailed.
Yeah. I think it's going to be very hard to try to rebuild that. It's going to be extremely difficult.
Well, hey, thanks, man. Thanks for your time. Thank you for telling your story. Appreciate it. Again, This is Evan with HBI. Yeah, sorry to hear you're in a similar situation. Wish you the best of luck, man. And I'm sure we'll see you sometime soon.
For sure. Absolutely. Good luck to you too.
Thanks, dude.
All right. See ya.
Well, YouTube, there you go. That's Evan from HBI. It's interesting because his situation is sort of similar to mine. I mean, it's funny because I've only met him the once when he was down here for the work on the Scud. We got along great then, and it's like you almost have this camaraderie because you've been in the trenches together dealing with the same crap. After I shut off the video, we ended up talking for quite a while. Yeah, this whole situation sucks. Like, I hope this isn't like CNC Motors and people start contacting me left and right with their stories. Oh man, I really don't want to deal with that. So anyway, we will be doing car stuff. Please like, share, and subscribe. We will see you in some more videos coming up soon. So yeah, it's gonna be sweet.